Today, as we go about our daily routines, we often take for granted the convenience of having the weather at our fingertips. With just a tap on our smartphones, we can see if rain or sunshine awaits us, plan our journeys, and even receive alerts about storms before they arrive. It is the 4th of November, 2025, a date that, for most, is just another day marked on the calendar. Yet, it's a reminder of how far we've come in understanding the world around us. Today we rely on sophisticated technology and expert meteorologists to provide us with accurate weather forecasts. This sense of certainty and preparedness is something previous generations could only dream of. Not so long ago, weather prediction was a blend of intuition, observation, and a fair bit of guesswork. The story of how British weather forecasting evolved is deeply intertwined with the brutal winters of the 1960s. These were times when snow blanketed towns, and icy winds swept across the countryside, catching many off guard. Those winters were more than just cold. They were transformative. The relentless storms and freezing temperatures exposed the shortcomings of traditional forecasting methods, challenging meteorologists to move beyond old habits and embrace a more scientific, data-driven approach. Roads became impassable, trains ground to a halt, and entire communities were isolated for days. The severe cold spells revealed just how vulnerable society was to the whims of nature and how much depended on accurate predictions. Among these winters, the infamous Big Freeze of 1962-63 stands out. For months the nation was paralyzed by snow and ice, with rivers freezing solid and villages cut off from the outside world. It was a winter that tested the resilience of the British people and the limits of meteorological science. This extraordinary period forced meteorologists to rethink their methods. Outdated equipment and guesswork gave way to new technologies and a more rigorous scientific process, laying the groundwork for the advanced systems we depend on today. The lessons learned during those challenging years became the foundation of modern forecasting. By comparing old handwritten logs with today's digital charts, we see just how much progress has been made. Understanding this history is essential. It highlights the remarkable journey of meteorology over the last 50 years, from uncertain predictions to the near real-time accuracy we now enjoy. Every forecast we receive today is built upon decades of scientific inquiry, innovation, and the determination to never be caught unprepared again. The drive to improve was born out of necessity, shaped by the harshest of winters. The great winters of the 60s taught us invaluable lessons. By studying past extremes, meteorologists learn to anticipate the future, ensuring that each new generation is better equipped to face whatever the weather may bring. Thanks to these hard-won lessons, we can now walk through winter with confidence, knowing that we are unlikely to be caught by surprise again. The echoes of winters past continue to guide us, shaping a safer and more prepared future. The story begins just after Christmas in 1962, a time when families across the United Kingdom were still basking in the warmth of the festive season. Streets were adorned with twinkling lights and the air was filled with the lingering joy of holiday celebrations. But, beneath the surface, a dramatic shift in the weather was about to unfold, one that would etch itself into the nation's memory for generations. A relentless snowfall began to blanket the country, transforming familiar landscapes into a world of white. This marked the start of what would soon be known as the infamous Big Freeze, a winter event that would challenge the endurance of millions. An anticyclone settled over Scandinavia, acting as a barrier and channeling bitterly cold air from Russia directly into the UK. Day after day, the icy winds swept across the land, making even the simplest daily tasks a struggle. For 10 consecutive weeks, Britain endured its coldest winter since the year 1740. The nation was gripped by a deep freeze that seemed unending, with each week bringing new records for low temperatures and snowfall. Temperatures plummeted to astonishing lows, with Braemar in Scotland recording a bone-chilling -22.2 degrees Celsius. Across the country, pipes burst, heating systems failed, and people huddled together for warmth. Rivers and lakes froze solid, an almost unimaginable sight in the UK. The River Thames at Windsor became so thick with ice that people could actually walk across its surface, a rare and remarkable phenomenon. Snowdrifts piled up so high that entire villages were buried, cutting off communities from the outside world for weeks on end. Roads disappeared beneath the snow, and daily life ground to a halt in many areas. The Royal Air Force was called into action, delivering essential supplies by helicopter to farms and homes that were completely isolated. These daring missions brought food, medicine, and hope to those stranded by the relentless winter. The landscape was transformed into an Arctic wilderness, with snow and ice stretching as far as the eye could see. The severity of the conditions created a national emergency, testing the resolve of communities and authorities alike. When the Big Freeze finally relented in March, the sudden thaw brought a new challenge: widespread flooding. Melting snow and ice overwhelmed rivers and fields, causing further disruption and hardship. This extraordinary winter tested the nation's resilience, revealing both the strength of community spirit and the limitations of the era's weather forecasting. Neighbors helped one another, and stories of courage and kindness became part of the winter's legacy. The Met Office faced a humbling experience, as the unprecedented conditions exposed significant gaps in their predictive capabilities. The winter of 1962-63 became a wake-up call for meteorologists across the country. Ultimately, this winter marked a turning point for weather forecasting in the UK, spurring advancements in meteorology and emergency preparedness that would shape the future. The Big Freeze of 1962-63 remains a powerful reminder of nature's might and the enduring spirit of the British people. What made the 60s winters so unique? It was the atmospheric patterns. Typically, British winters are mild due to westerly Atlantic airflows. However, the 60s saw frequent blocking highs over Scandinavia or Greenland. These highs diverted the jet stream, exposing the UK to cold air from Eastern Europe. The Big Freeze of 62-63 was marked by this pattern. The cold persisted, with snow accumulating and reinforcing the chill. The North Atlantic was also colder, influencing these atmospheric patterns. This combination created severe winters, catching everyone off guard. It was a climatic regime unseen in the 20th century. The severe winters of the 1960s profoundly impacted British society, bringing daily life to a near standstill. Streets that were once bustling with activity became eerily silent, blanketed in thick snow. People found themselves stranded, unable to reach work or school, and entire communities were cut off from the outside world for days or even weeks. Transport networks were paralyzed by relentless snow and ice, making travel almost impossible. Cars were abandoned on roadsides, and only the bravest attempted to venture out, often at great personal risk. Roads were impassable, and railways struggled with frozen points and snowdrifts that blocked tracks. Trains ground to a halt, leaving passengers stranded and goods undelivered. Thousands of workers fought tirelessly to keep trains running, braving freezing temperatures and blizzards. Despite their efforts, many lines remained closed for days, highlighting the overwhelming power of nature. Homes were bitterly cold, with frozen pipes causing widespread water shortages. Families huddled together for warmth, often wearing coats and hats indoors as frost crept across windows. Standpipes were set up in the streets, and people queued for hours in freezing temperatures just to collect buckets of water. The simple act of getting water became a daily struggle. Power cuts were frequent as demand for heating soared and the energy grid faltered. Many spent long, dark evenings by candlelight, wrapped in blankets, trying to stay warm. The economic cost was immense. Factories closed, production lines stopped, and sports events were canceled, leaving stadiums empty and silent. The nation's economy suffered as businesses struggled to cope. Agriculture was hit especially hard. Crops failed under the weight of snow, and livestock perished in the freezing conditions, threatening food supplies and rural livelihoods. The Big Freeze was a national disaster, exposing the fragility of Britain's infrastructure. Emergency workers battled to restore order, but the scale of the chaos was overwhelming. The hardship left a deep scar on the national psyche. Families and communities were tested, and the memories of that winter lingered for years, shaping attitudes toward preparedness and resilience. The experience highlighted the urgent need for better weather, forecasting, and emergency planning. Scientists and meteorologists began to push for improved technology and communication. Ultimately, the Big Freeze was a wake-up call for the nation, prompting changes in policy and public awareness that would shape Britain's response to future crises. In the early 60s, weather forecasting was far from today's digital science. Meteorologists relied on surface observations, weather balloons, and expert judgment. Data was manually plotted on charts, creating a snapshot of the weather. Forecasting was slow, with charts often outdated by the time they were analyzed. Forecasters lacked a complete atmospheric view, especially over the Atlantic. There were no satellites to provide a comprehensive picture. Long-range forecasting was educated guesswork, unable to predict the big freeze's persistence. The severe winters proved the need for a new approach. Forecasters were skilled but needed digital solutions for complex atmospheric dynamics. The limitations of analog tools were evident. A transformation in forecasting was desperately needed. The Big Freeze catalyzed change within the UK Met Office. Traditional forecasting methods were inadequate for a modern nation. The government recognized the need for investment in meteorological science. Satellite technology was embraced, revolutionizing weather observation. More weather balloons and radar improved data collection. A shift towards physics-based forecasting began, leading to numerical weather prediction. The crisis spurred the development of a new era in weather forecasting. The Met Office transformed into a world-leading scientific institution. Numerical Weather Prediction, NWP, was first envisioned by Lewis Fry Richardson in the 1920s. The invention of electronic computers made Richardson's dream possible. By the 60s, computers could tackle atmospheric simulation. The Met Office accelerated computer model development after the Big Freeze. The goal was to create a reliable weather model for the UK and North Atlantic. In 1965, the Met Office acquired its first supercomputer, Comet. Early models were crude, but represented a breakthrough. Forecasts were based on mathematical calculations, not just human interpretation. The forecaster's role evolved to interpret and refine computer model outputs. These models provided an objective prediction of the future. The foundation for modern weather forecasting was laid. The journey from the KDF-9 Comet to today's supercomputers is one of exponential progress. Lessons from early models drove continuous research and development. Modern weather models simulate the atmosphere in incredible detail. Today's supercomputers perform quadrillions of calculations per second. High-resolution models can simulate individual thunderstorms and wind flows. Data assimilation from global observations creates accurate forecasts. Ensemble forecasting provides a range of outcomes, improving risk assessment. The legacy of the 60s is evident in today's advanced forecasting tools. We are better prepared for extreme weather than ever before. The progress in meteorology is a direct result of the challenges faced in the 60s. The great winters of the 60s were a defining moment for the UK. They revolutionized weather forecasting, exposing the inadequacy of old methods. The response to the crisis laid the foundation for modern forecasting systems. Investment in key technologies like satellites and supercomputers was crucial. The Met Office transformed into a world-leading institution. Today's accurate forecasts are a legacy of the 60s transformation. We are better prepared for extreme weather, thanks to continuous progress. The story of the 60s winters is a reminder of progress born from necessity. Challenges can spur significant innovations in meteorology. The Great Freeze's legacy lives on in the technology that keeps us safe. The lessons learned continue to shape our understanding of weather today.